All right, Councilmember Appel. All right, you got a quorum. Let's go ahead and Mr. Mayor, get started. Councilman Griffin, give you the pleasure, bringing a few words.
Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to do the great work of the city. And we ask that we accomplish all of our tasks in your name, in the way that you would do it. Thank you also for this opportunity to serve every day. It's such a beautiful blessing and something that we should never take lightly. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. We got the approval of minutes for November 22nd and December 20th.
So moved.
Properly moved and
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All right, let's skip down to item F. Mr. O'Brien, these temporary encroachments, anything, any exceptions out there that we need?
No, sir, they're pretty much our standard. We've got some right angle signs, some irrigation, some fences, and we have one connecting into the back of a storm drain, which we always check with Matt's crew and Ben Smith, his operation, make sure that's not going to have any adverse effects. So we've checked all of them and recommend for approval and offer them y'all as information only.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, sir.
Down to stormwater management updates, Mr. Fountain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
H1.
Yeah, item H1 is our first item for Spring Fishburne Phase 5 tonight. This is recommending approval of a pump procurement contract with Xylem Water Solutions. This is the actual purchasing in advance of the 3 large pumps that will go into the pump station.
Right.
That is just over 5.9 million for the supply of those 3 pumps. This also sets up the project budget for the phase from the accounting perspective at just over $38 million with funding from the King Street Gateway TIF and the South Carolina Transportation Infrastructure Bank.
Yeah, let me tell you, I thought it was good news when I saw this being ordered.
Move for approval.
And just very briefly, Councilman Warren, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Griffin, Councilor Griffin, but I did send out just before the meeting an update to the terms and conditions. We had a couple of minor changes that we were working through with Corporation Counsel. They're all just changes to the legal language within the contract, not the purchase price or anything related to what we're buying. But I did want to just note that we had made some minor changes to the final version. Thank you for that.
It's been properly moved. We have a second?
Second.
All right, second. Any discussion on that? I mean, this is really good news on
Mr.
this.
Chairman.
Yes, sir, Councilman Griffin.
I just want to thank our staff and all of the members of council. I remember back the last couple of years, we all sat in the room at an offsite meeting.
Yeah.
We figured how we were going to fund this. And I remember when we sat in the chamber and we got the report, we had no idea how to fund Phase 5. We really didn't.
Right.
And it wasn't anybody's fault, but
Right.
it took a lot of great minds and a lot of minds smarter than all of us on this call, all of our staff members, really.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Getting that grant application into the State Infrastructure Bank, submitting that, really having to work overtime to get it done. But really, we have to thank them as well, because the State Infrastructure Bank would not let this project fail. They've already invested so much money into this project. They knew that we were in a tough spot. Mr. Mayor took our governor down into that outfall, and
That's right.
He saw it firsthand how badly we needed it. In terms of a collaborative effort, this is probably one of the most collaborative projects we've worked on as a city. It's one of the most expensive, and it's one that every one of us has skin in. We've all worked our hardest to make it happen. We've called every person we can to make it happen.
That's right.
Just so thankful and proud of our city, because at one point we were looking at depleting our drainage fund to get this
For 6 years. For 6 years.
6 years. And that was going to take away projects off of the peninsula that don't have another funding source.
That's
So
right.
how far we've come. Well, I am in my last meeting to get to vote.
How's it
Thank you,
going?
Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for bringing that up. I know Mr. Mayor probably has some words to comment on that too. I mean, we all were at wit's end on that. Like I said, it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just inflation on a very expensive project. And Councilmember Appel, that $6 million over in your district right now, it wouldn't have been there because we would have needed it over here to finish Spring Fishburne. So we all had an empty feeling together, and we all kind of worked through it together. Councilmember Shea.
I just wanted to show, if I can show you this picture, but this is the motley crew that went down into that shaft that Councilmember Griffin was just mentioning when we took the governor down there, but I don't know if you can recognize some of those faces, but I've got a host of pictures I showed folks, the scope of this project. And I think that's Councilmember White and I can't make out, and I think Councilmember Gregory is there and myself and Councilmember Shealy is in that picture. So we, that was a massive undertaking, folks, that we had in that. I just wanted to share that for our entertainment. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you want to add anything?
So I'll reiterate or pile on to Councilmember Griffin's remarks in particular, because it has been a collaborative effort. It does feel like a milestone for us to be ordering these pumps. And I'll point out that in just a little under 3 minutes time, these 3 pumps collectively together could have the ability to pump 1 million gallons in just a little less than 3 minutes. So that's moving some water and should keep the Septima Clark Parkway mostly dry. And so it's a huge accomplishment. And then, as Councilmember Griffin mentioned, it's really a separate add-on project. But I really thank and give Governor McMaster credit for helping us get the approval from that CDBG mitigation grant. And I think Matt Fountain would report to you that we hope next month to bring forward the contract for that extension of the tunnel system to go down to Earhart Street, the actual construction contract, and we'll be getting that underway as well. So this is all coming together, and you're right, Councilmember Griffin, a remarkable collaborative effort of staff and council, and you know, I would share with you, I humbly do listen sometimes. You know, we were filing those applications, and I kind of had the low battery on the top of the list, and council said, Mayor, you really ought to make this one the top of the list, the highest priority, and we did that, and it did make a difference. So thank y'all for your guidance on that as well.
Yeah, we all learned together, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Sure did. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Fountain, H2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is sort of the corollary contract to the pump procurement. This is the recommendation for approval of fee amendment 22 for the professional services contract with Davis and Floyd. It's just under $1.5 million. This is basically the update and final design work for the phase 5 superstructure. So that's the installation of the pumps, building the actual building on top, and then some of the controls and electrical system that go along.
Move for approval.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, please say aye.
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 Any against? Thank you. Mr. Fountain, you're back up again. H3, Concord Street Pump Station outfit.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we've been busy with pump stations recently.
Yeah, I see that.
So this item is to upfit the existing Concord Street pump station. This is what we often call Calhoun East and the Market Street pump station. Drains sort of the entire area from the Calhoun East Bay intersection down through the market. It's a pump station was built a little bit over 25 years ago. We've talked about a number of times that it's in pretty sore need of upfit and retrofit. So we're basically repairing and replacing much of the work that's in the process of being less reliable, as well as making a little bit enhanced for future use, since we're tying the market in as well to this pump station. We're going to approach this with a construction manager at risk contracting style, which isn't something you see as often from the stormwater department. But since this is a lot of building work, and it's basically being built in a very tight site right next to the IAM as the IAM kind of work becomes operational, And I also like to talk about the challenges that are associated with repairing something that you also need to keep in operation the entire time you repair it. It's kind of like trying to change the oil on your car while you're driving your car down the street. So CMAR gives us a little bit more flexibility. It lets us basically work collaboratively with a contractor. At some point, we'll bring a contractor on board, a little bit more of a design build style approach, just not quite as simplified as a traditional design build. This is the contract then with Black and Veatch for the professional services side of the CMAR contract, basically the owner's representative. The amount here is just about 1.7 million. I would note really quickly that 1.1 million of that is the base cost. And then there's a series of options depending on what we get into with the CMAR, so we don't have to keep coming back with delays for coming back to council. So those are all laid out in the document before you. We don't necessarily expect to expend the entire 1.7, but we do expect to expend somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5, at least depending on where we get to with the work.
Okay, any questions, additional questions of Mr. Fountain? You need to entertain a motion. Let's get a motion on the floor and then we get into
So moved.
discussion.
So
Properly moved, and I think that's a second by Councilman. All right, Councilman Shays, you had your hand up?
yeah, just a back out one step, Matt, and of this almost $1.7 million contract, you said 1.1 million is allocated for, and I just sort of lost you in my train of thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Councilman. So 1.1 million of it is basically the base cost of things that we absolutely know we have to do no matter what on the pump station. There's another roughly.
Is that labor and material included? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's just the engineering work
Oh, gotcha.
to basically do the design. But then there are other tasks in there. There's things, and an easy example is like if we find asbestos, which there shouldn't be in this situation, but if you were to find asbestos, there's a task to document the asbestos, figure out what needs to be done, and be able to work through the asbestos issue. This station's too new for us to expect asbestos, but there are some tasks built in like that. There's options for doing an emergency backup generator, which isn't something we envision at this point, unless a grant or something becomes available. But we do have some tasks in there. Some of the tasks are likely to be necessary, will almost certainly be necessary. But some of them will not be, depending on exactly how and that's how CMAR works, is you kind of run a collaborative design between the engineer and the contractor, rather than having the engineer build a set of plans and then bid it in a lowest bidder environment and having the contractor have to build basically what the engineer spec. It gives the contractor a chance to have input in the way that it's being built, because they may have good suggestions as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
We will have to come back. We will have to come back with a future task for the construction engineering inspection services, the CEI, as well as the actual construction contract, which will operate under a guaranteed maximum price, GMP style, like you might see with the IAM or with some other architectural buildings generally.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Matt, speaking of generators, I know that block is due to have the electric lines put underground. Do you know the status on that? Does that impact this project at all?
So this project is impacted by the undergrounding. We've been working with the IAM project they basically installed drilled stainless steel conduits from the transformer into the station. We're working now to pull power lines through those conduits. And so there is a component of this project that's already going on with the IAM to be able to transfer the power from above ground to underground. But yes, Mayor, that is involved. And they are getting relatively close to being able to make that transition from above ground to underground.
Right. So I do have one request, and it's similar to some requests Councilmember Waring has made over the years about making the public aware of what we're doing. And it's, a very plain kind of brick building, but nobody knows what that is. And as by the time you wrap this project up, could we design and place a appropriate, nice sign on the building that lets folks know that their drainage dollars are at work, and that this is in fact a major pump station for the city's system?
We will absolutely do that during construction. This is a BAR jurisdiction property, which is why it looks the way it looks. We will bring that up with the BAR as part of this project and see what input they have on signage. I'm sure they'll let us do something.
Yeah,
How apparent it will be, it might be a little more subtle than you would expect.
okay.
God.
Thank
And we
you.
want
We will do
neon
quite a
lights.
bit we will do quite a bit of public outreach related to this project, because this will probably be in design and BAR process until at least middle of 2023, with construction going for another year past that likely. So this is a pretty major project, and it'll definitely have a lot of outreach and discussion.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, if we're all in on that, let me carry the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. We took a track on real estate. Real estate got finished pretty efficiently and quickly today. So maybe that's the
Mr.
trend for
Chairman.
next year. Yes, sir, Mr. Councilman Griffin.
Before we adjourn, if I could just have just 1 minute of your
Sure.
time. I want to thank Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Fountain one last time, since this would be my last meeting. You guys are two of the hardest working employees in this entire city. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with both of you. I've thoroughly enjoyed serving on this committee, and I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Matt Altop. I just want to let both of you know that you always have an advocate for your departments with me. And if you ever need me to come to public comment period and say anything to city council, let me know. I'll be the first in line for both of you.
So we thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
We appreciate all your hard work and support, Councilman Griffin.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. All right. With that, we're gonna stand adjourned and
Good luck to you, Councilman Griffin.
yeah, he's gonna do
Thank you.
well.
See you outside of council, maybe.
Man, that's you know what?
God bless you all.
On the other side, man, there's a certain amount of everybody gets smarter when they leave this council. You ever notice that?
Usually they have less hair when they leave this council. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I've got a little bit more than you do, Councilmember Shea.